Part 31. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 301. Black Bear listened to Absinthe's words and looked at the other party's face, which was like a young boy. Although it was very distorted, he also showed a smile on his face. This smile was very strange and full of sexual interest. Hee, tender skin and flesh, I like it very much, so let's have some fun. Before you die. Absinthe's face froze when he heard this. He can naturally hear the meaning of this sentence. It's actually a gay, damn. Thinking of this, he seemed to be as uncomfortable as eating a fly. There was a cold light in his eyes, looking at the black bear who was approaching him. The other party held a machine gun in his hand, pointing at him vaguely. It seemed that as long as he made any unusual movements, he would attack him. Absinthe slowly stood up and approached the black bear. The closer he got, the more his body changed. Pieces of flesh fell from his face to the ground, and a hideous and terrifying face appeared. Come on, let's have fun. Black Bear was horrified when he saw the changes in Absinthe, and countless bullets poured out from his machine gun. The hot light produced by the friction with the air penetrated Absinthe's body, pierced through the wall behind him, and left countless bullet holes. But this attack obviously had no effect on Absinthe. It was a vengeful spirit, completely immune to any physical attack. It suddenly turned into a ball of black mist and wrapped around Black Bear. Facing the attack from Absinthe, Black Bear was horrified. He threw away the machine gun in his hand and retreated. The whole body was filled with a bronze color, and a faint spirit covered the whole body. Both fists suddenly swung out, turning into fist winds, covering the space in front of him. The bronze spirit turned into fists one after another, staying within a range of 3 feet in front of him, resisting the black resentment torrent that rushed towards him. At this time, Absinthe's body had already turned into countless resentments, filling the entire room. He was refined into the strange summoning album and became a part of it. In this Wanchaiwu, his power would be enhanced to a certain extent, and he had broken through the peak level of initiation. But he was not at the level of human immortals, and he had no chance of winning in a head-on confrontation with the black bear. So what he was doing now was just harassing the black bear and fighting a protracted war with the other party. Using his physical immunity, many of the other party's modern weapons had no effect on it. Palms made of resentment grabbed the black bear from all directions. Facing these attacks, the black bear did not let go. His fists were as fast as lightning, and each punch would defeat a palm that stretched out from the black resentment. He didn't dare to let these palms full of resentment touch him. The resentful spirits were a strange existence, and physical attacks were ineffective. Only those who mastered the essence could defeat them. At this time, his eyes were slightly solemn, looking left and right, looking for the resentful spirits in the dark fog around him. His technique is good at body training, but when dealing with an invisible thing like Absinthe, his methods are much simpler. At this time, Absinthe was hidden in the boundless resentment, and there was no intention of appearing. He was even happy about this. As long as he could entangle this black bear, he would be victorious. In Brandy's original room, Lin Yi sat here. The one who pushed the door in was Tattoo, a man covered with all kinds of strange tattoos, and his whole body was filled with a strange magic. A dark green light was running around his body. This light, combined with the tattoos on his body, formed a strange illusory illusion around him. Obviously, he practiced a technique that contained illusions. Even the tattoos on his body were made of a special material, which could complement the essence in his body to form various illusions. When he saw Lin Yi slowly standing up from the bed, his face froze. A hint of ominousness flashed through his heart instinctively. The other party had been waiting for them for a long time, and they seemed to have fallen into a trap. Lin Yi's whole body was like a dream. He took a step forward and arrived in front of Ci Ching in the next moment. At this time, he had already activated the illusionary immortal path, and the whole person was like a dream. Ci Ching looked at the other party performing a method similar to his own, and his heart sank. He had never fought with people with similar methods, and he immediately felt pressured about his chances of winning. But at this time, he could not hesitate, and two dark green scimitars appeared in his hands. In a flash, they turned into two crescent moons and enveloped Lin Yi. He didn't know where the opponent was exactly, so he simply enveloped the area where the enemy was in front of him. Illusion only interferes with the opponent's vision and hearing, etc., but cannot substantially change the enemy's existence. As long as you attack the opponent must defend. Dang dang. With the sound of metal collision, the crescent moon drawn by the two scimitars instantly collided with something. At this moment, three figures rushed out from the illusory figures in front of him and rushed towards him from the left, right, and center. Tattoo immediately noticed something was wrong, and retracted the two scimitars, forming a ball of blue moonlight around him. Not seeking merit, but seeking no fault. Three figures came from three directions, and they all punched out, hitting three vital points on his body straight down. Tattoo could clearly see that the three figures were wearing steel gloves, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. No matter which one of you is real, my scimitar is not so easy to break. The knife light drew a twisted arc, and in an instant it passed through the three figures, where the gloves and elbows intersected. That was the most vulnerable place. With his knife light, he could cut off the opponent's palm immediately with just one cut. But after the knife passed through this vulnerable point, he didn't smile at all. Because he didn't feel any sense of cutting any substantial object at all. Suddenly he had an idea in his mind. No, they are all fake. As this thought flashed through his mind, a palm gently slapped his spine. A stream of energy instantly blocked the connection between his body and brain. Like rotten meat without bone support, he fell directly to the ground and could no longer move. A figure on the other side was smashed through the wall and fell into his room. Vodka's body was filled with dark light, and he rushed out from the broken hole in the wall, stepping on the person thrown out to the ground, unable to move. The last of the 7 people, Condor, vomited blood and hugged Vodka's leg that was stepping on his chest with both hands, trying to struggle, but he was so powerless. At this time, Vodka looked at Lin Yi. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 302. Store Manager, this person has been defeated by me and can no longer struggle. Lin Yi smiled slightly, catch them all and take them to the underground maze. A few minutes later, 5 of the 7 defeated generals appeared in the underground maze. Corroded by the power of the underground labyrinth, they became the puppet guardians of the labyrinth without any resistance. At this time, in the lobby of Wanchaiwu, sisters Lin Yi and Zhang Lingfang were sitting on the sofa and talking. Lin Yi smiled faintly and said, "Now all 5 of them have been defeated, and my men are brainwashing them. Soon they will become my puppets. At that time, I will ask one of the 5 of them to call Dong Gong Wudi to report the situation. We are going to have a play later, so be prepared." Zhang Lingfang frowned, looked at Lin Yi and said, "Acting? What else do we need to act? Of course we need to take photos and videos of our deaths. Pack it together and send it to Dong Gong Wudi, so he will believe it all." Hearing this, the 2 sisters suddenly understood. When her sister Zhang Linghua heard this, she couldn't help but glance at Lin Yi. She was obviously impressed by Lin Yi's strategizing. Everything was as expected by Lin Yi. A big game of chess, in a short period of time, the East Palace was defeated and turned into a lonely family, falling into crisis. Even the last part of this plan was the death of Dong Gong Wudi. The executioners were the 2 sisters Zhang Lingfang, who avenged their father and mother. At the same time, it also made their sisters hate each other for being deceived all these years. The most important thing is that no one will doubt Lin Yi in this matter. Once Dong Gong Wudi dies, all doubts will converge on these 2 sisters. Lin Yi smiled slightly. Okay, the following things are almost completed, it's time for us to act. Let's go. As he spoke, he walked towards the kitchen, which was the entrance to the underground maze. The two sisters Zhang Lingfang followed Lin Yi to the underground maze. They looked at the huge underground buildings with shock in their eyes. Here it is. Lin Yi smiled faintly. This place should be left by people from the previous dynasty. I don't know exactly where it is. It's just that this place is relatively secretive, and I regard it as my last fortress. Scorpion and the others, I relied on the complex terrain here to defeat them one by one. Sister Zhang Lingfang was silent when they heard this, but they knew one thing. Lin Yi was more unfathomable than they imagined. What they saw just now was just the most superficial layer. Soon the three of them came to a relatively empty room in the maze, about 10 square meters. There are a dozen people standing here. 3 of them were Lin Yi's men: vodka, brandy, and absinthe, and 6 of the other 9 were people known to the two sisters. What I knew was Scorpion and the 5 generals, but what I didn't know were the 3 criminals on the wanted list, the violent black dragon. Seeing this scene, both of them took a breath. Almost everyone here was a master of the human immortal Dao, except for Lin Yi's 2 clerks. What scares the two sisters Zhang Lingfang the most is the 9 people they originally knew. At this time, they all looked at Lin Yi respectfully, as if looking at a god, with respect and awe from the bottom of their hearts. This kind of look was also the look they used to look at Dong Gongwudi, and it was too familiar. It was precisely because it was so familiar that it frightened them. In just a few minutes, 5 of the 7 generals had already completely regarded Lin Yi as a god. No matter how you think about it, it feels impossible, and there is only one conclusion. Lin Yi possesses some mysterious power and can brainwash people into becoming his slaves. Even a strong person at the human immortal Dao level cannot avoid this kind of brainwashing. This made them both slightly nervous, fearing that Lin Yi would take action against them. At this time, Lin Yi glanced at them and said, "Don't worry. If I wanted to take action against you, I would have done so a long time ago, and you wouldn't be alive now. Let's get to work. Get ready to take photos and record videos." As he spoke, Brandy had already taken out his mobile phone, while Absinthe took out various props and began to set up the scene. Absinthe's eyes shone with excitement, and he was very interested in all new things. This may be one of the few joys in his career as a wraith. Soon the sisters Lin Yi and Zhang Lingfang became lovers. I shot a video and a lot of photos under the guidance of Brandy and Absinthe. In the photo, several people dripping with blood were lying in a pool of blood. After taking pictures of all this, Lin Yi looked at the 5 newly surrendered generals and said in a low voice, "Tell me now, which of you is Dong Gongwudi's true confidant?" Hearing this, Bai Sha walked out, looked at Lin Yi and said, "Sir, I am Dong Gongwudi's true confidant. He called me today and told me that if there is a problem when Ling Long's sisters assassinate you, let me attack from behind and kill them both. And even if the assassination is successful, let me deal with them after this, because they are no longer safe." After hearing Bai Sha's words, Zhang Lingfang and Zhang Lingfang's eyes instantly showed unbearable anger. It was obvious that Dong Gongwudi completely regarded them as tools and would abandon them as soon as problems arose. Without even a trace of hesitation, Dong Gongwudi's vicious thoughts are evident. Zhang Lingfang's eyes were full of murderous intent. If Dong Gongwudi was in front of them, I'm afraid she would directly attack and kill this man on the spot. At this time, Lin Yi looked at Baisha and said, "Okay, you call Dong Gongwudi. At the same time, send him some excerpts of the videos and photos you took. Just say that the mission has been completed. Maybe he will find you. If he doesn't find you, go to the villa area and wait for him. Even if he is not in the villa, he should not be far away. You can always wait for him then. Zhang Lingfang, you can go quietly at that time." Zhang Lingfang nodded coldly, "Okay, thank you, Mr. Lin Yi." If it weren't for you, I'm afraid we would never. There is no chance to know the truth, nor to avenge the blood feud. Lin Yi smiled slightly. I am a very helpful person, I hope you can bring me good news. By the way, after you kill him, it is best to destroy his mobile phone and leave no traces. This is for your own good and for my good. Zhang Lingfang nodded slightly. Mr. Lin, please rest assured, we know what to do. Lin Yi looked at Beisha. Let's make a call. Beisha quickly dialed the phone, and soon the voice of Dong Gongwudi came from the other side. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 303. Is the matter done? Yes, sir, I have taken some videos and photos of the scene, and will send them to your mobile phone for your review. Dong Gongwudi heard this, his voice was filled with a hint of joy. Ha ha ha, good. You did a great job, and you are indeed worthy of being my #1 general. Come to the villa area later, and you have to protect me to a place. Yes, sir, I will be there soon. After Beisha hung up the phone, he sent the video and photos to Dong Gongwudi through the internet, and at the same time he handed the phone to Absinthe. After Absinthe took the phone, his body began to change strangely, and then turned into Beisha. People who have been eroded by the underground maze cannot leave the maze, otherwise they will die in an instant. In order to win the trust of Dong Gongwudi, a Beisha must appear in the villa area to find his true location. And this glorious and arduous task can only fall on Absinthe. After all, he is the only vengeful spirit who can change his appearance at will, which is the innate instinct of the vengeful spirit. Seeing the strange changes of Absinthe, Zhang Lingfang and the others were startled. Obviously, they also recognized it. What exactly is Absinthe? The two looked at each other and saw a trace of fear in each other's hearts. Lin Yi was more terrifying than they imagined, as he could manipulate the vengeful spirits to erode people's hearts. All this was done deliberately by Lin Yi. He wanted to plant seeds in the hearts of the two sisters. He is an extremely terrifying existence and must not be offended. Only in this way, the two sisters will go far away after revenge and never want to recall his existence again. If you want people to be in awe, you must make them afraid, and people in fear will be more cautious. Absinthe took Beisha's mobile phone and left Wanqi house. Zhang Lingfang and her sister fell far behind him, waiting for him to contact Dong Gongwudi. Then they will take action and completely kill Dong Gongwudi. Revenge. Having lived with Dong Gongwudi for so many years, they naturally know the true strength of the other party. Dong Gongwudi is just a top-level martial arts master. And he has no actual combat ability. In their eyes, he is a weakling. As long as he appears, he will never change the outcome of his death. Absinthe arrived at the villa in the East District soon. When he just arrived at the gate of Dong Gongwudi's original villa, Beisha's mobile phone rang. Absinthe answered the phone immediately. I see you. Leave the villa now and wait for me at the intersection of the avenue next to the villa. Yes, sir, Beisha said respectfully. Then he turned and left the villa area and came to the intersection at the entrance of this villa area. Sister Zhang Lingfang had already hidden in a dark corner. Their eyes were always locked on Absinthe. At this time, Zhang Lingfang had taken out a sniper rifle and quietly aimed at Absinthe's position from a distance. The sight on the sniper rifle was replaced with a thermal sensor. As long as Dong Gongwudi appeared, he could not escape. They waited for less than a few minutes, and a car slowly drove up and stopped in front of Absinthe. The car window rolled down quickly, revealing Dong Gongwudi's face. Come up, we have to leave here quickly. We can't stay in Honglian City anymore. Let the others come after we settle them down. Absinthe smiled slightly. It's the young master. At this moment, a sharp muffled sound suddenly exploded. The front window of the car driven by Dong Gongwudi exploded, and a bullet passed through his chest silently. A palm-sized hole appeared in his chest, and blood spurted out in an instant, dyeing the entire car red. Dong Gongwudi trembled all over, and his eyes showed a trace of disbelief. Then there was no breath, and this Prime Minister's son died here silently. At this time, accompanied by this muffled sound, the patrol personnel in the villa area were quickly alarmed. One by one, the flashlights lit up and came here. Absinthe looked at Dong Gongwudi's disbelief and the resentment emanating from his body, and smiled strangely. He turned into a black mist and pounced on Dong Gongwudi. Countless resentments merged into the black mist like young swallows returning to their nests. You can vaguely see Dong Gongwudi's painful face flickering in the black mist, and then it became more and more illusory, until it disappeared completely. At the same time, in the car, Dong Gongwudi's mobile phone turned into powder under the power of absinthe. When the patrolmen around arrived, absinthe had turned into a black mist, passed through the underground and disappeared at the scene. The Zhang Lingfang sisters, who were hundreds of meters away from here, had already put away their weapons and quickly disappeared into the darkness. The two had no intention of going back to the Wanchaiwa to meet Lin Yi again. After completing their revenge, their lives would belong to them. They would go far away, hide their names, and stay away from the place of right and wrong. In the end, this would be a headless case, and no one would be able to trace them. As more than a dozen patrolmen gathered at the intersection, they saw the car parked there. They also noticed the broken front window of the car and the body stained with blood inside. Alarms kept ringing and phone calls kept echoing. Apparently, someone had recognized Dong Gongwudi's identity. They showed panic on their faces. Dong Gongwudi was the son of the Prime Minister and the owner of the villa. He died here silently. No matter what, they would be questioned. Faced with this situation, these patrolmen might lose their jobs. Soon the place was blocked, and a special investigation team quickly entered the scene and began to search and check all traces at the scene. At this time, in the Prime Minister's mansion, Dong Gongtao's office made a loud noise. In front of him was a broken desk, which was completely shattered. His heart was filled with boundless anger. Who killed my son? No matter who you are, I must tear you into pieces. His eyes were dyed red with boundless anger. He almost couldn't bear the pain of losing his son in his old age and sending his son away. At this time, he clearly noticed some problems. Could this also be caused by the loss of dragon energy? Thinking of this, he immediately came to the courtyard where Tang Shenzi was. At this time, Tang Shenzi was drinking under the moon, looking very natural. Clang. The sound of someone pushing the door interrupted his interest in enjoying the moon. He looked at Dong Gongtao who entered the courtyard, with a hint of surprise on his face. Why is the Prime Minister so anxious? The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 304. Dong Gongtao looked at Tang Shenzi and said in a low voice, "My son was assassinated." Tang Shenzi looked solemn, which was obviously beyond his expectation. This kind of thing would greatly stimulate the Prime Minister and was not conducive to the implementation of their plan. His master had calculated this kind of thing a long time ago. Because there were too many uncertainties, he had long given up the idea of stimulating him with the death of the Prime Minister's son. Who did it? How did he die? Dong Gongtao had no expression on his face, just looking at Tang Shenzi quietly. There is no accurate news and results yet. Prime Minister came to me, but what do you need me to help you with? Tang Shenzi felt that Dong Gongtao's mood was not stable, and he could feel that the other party had a suspicion of him. I hope you can help me find out who killed my son. Tang Shenzi's face condensed. Okay, but I have to see the scene to confirm it. Okay, Dong Gongtao said after a little thought. How did the last matter related to dragon energy go? Tang Shenzi's expression eased slightly. We have investigated almost everything in the past few days, and the location of the remaining dragon veins of the previous dynasty has been located. We can start preparing in 2 days. Use the dragon slaying knife to cut off the dragon veins of the previous dynasty, absorb all the breath of the dragon veins of the previous dynasty into your body, convert it into your dragon energy, and replenish the dragon energy consumption. In this way, all problems caused by insufficient dragon energy will be solved. 2 days left. I hope you can give me an explanation about my son's matter within these 2 days. Tang Shenzi looked strange, and looked at Dong Gongtaiyu and said slowly, I can only try my best to help you investigate this matter, but I am not sure whether there will be any results. No matter what the result is, you just have to try your best to investigate it. This is the information and report I have obtained so far. He handed a file bag to Tang Shenzi. After speaking, Dong Gongtaiyu turned and left, leaving Tang Shenzi alone in deep thought. Who did it? Did the righteous sects want to intervene and do it on purpose? We have already agreed that we will do this. What does it mean to intervene now? Or is there another force intervening in this matter? Thinking of this, a trace of cold light appeared in his eyes again. No matter who you are, if you dare to intervene in this game of chess, you must be prepared to have your hands and feet cut off. Thinking of this, Tang Shenzi returned to his courtyard attic. He came to a corner of the attic and made a seal with his hand. The whole person was glowing with a yellowish-brown glow, and then slowly sank and disappeared on the floor of the attic. When he appeared again, he had come to a mysterious secret room. This secret room has no exit, and there are walls on all sides. The air is not circulating. It is a completely cage-like place. Tang Shenzi came here and sat cross-legged in the middle of the secret room, where there was a thatched cushion. The next moment, another Tang Shenzi walked out of his body. This Tang Shenzi seemed as illusory as a ghost, but in the next moment he became solid as a substance. In a flash, he had disappeared in the underground cage, and the body left in the secret room had no breath. It was like a fake death, without any breathing sound. When he appeared again, he was already in mid-air. Obviously, this was something like his soul, not even material, so it could fly directly into the air. This was obviously something that would only be produced after practicing to a certain level. It was like the legendary Yuan Shen Dharma. In Tang Shenzi's eyes, the sky and the earth had already changed color at this time. Countless energy fluctuations filled the entire void. He looked down, and the endless blood-colored light enveloped the entire Honglian city. It was the light formed by the gathering of countless life lights. Under this light, he felt a faint suppression. He couldn't help but shook his head. Spiritual revival is not only a good thing, but also a bad thing. Although our cultivation speed has accelerated and it has become easier to practice, there are more constraints. In the previous Ghost Immortal Dao realm, you can come and go freely in Honglian City after cultivating 3 souls and 7 spirits. Now it is gradually suppressed by the blood and life brilliance of countless lives in the city. Unfortunately, this is a great event of heaven and earth, and it cannot be violated. Unless you go to a higher level, you can truly transcend the power of the organization. The personal power is truly returned to one person, and it can counter any secular organization. No one below the Ghost Immortal Dao can counter the power of the organization. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but sigh in his heart, and then looked into the distance. He quickly locked the scene of the incident. He had already used his soul power to read the document bag that Dong Gongtaiyu handed to him just now. He knew all the information in it, and his figure flashed, and he had already gone to the crime scene. A faint mist was lingering around him, making him disappear in the light that could be captured by his sight. Obviously, this is a stealth technique that can avoid ordinary people's detection. In just a few minutes, he has crossed several kilometers and landed at the crime scene. Looking at the car with broken windows, the inside is covered with blood, and there is a body lying on the seat. A trace of solemnity appeared in his eyes. Surrounded by countless police officers, on-site identification personnel, and forensic doctors, they were investigating the place. They were collecting all the evidence they could, but they could not see the existence of Tongshenzi at all. At this time, Tongshenzi's vision exceeded the limit of human vision and could capture many traces that humans could not see. He looked carefully at Donggongwudi's body. Soon he frowned. There is not even a trace of consciousness left in this person, nor any resentment. This is problematic no matter how you look at it. Anyone who dies suddenly, as long as he does not lose consciousness on the spot, will have resentment and fragments of consciousness left. It seems that there is something at the scene that can devour resentment and fragments of consciousness. Thinking of this, he immediately pinched a spell, and his eyes became deeper and darker. His eyes began to carefully scan this area, and he saw a trace of death from a distant place. The consciousness extended to here, shot through the glass, and shot through Donggongwudi's chest at the same time. A sniper weapon? Who is it? Using a sniper weapon to assassinate him. At this time, he discovered a faint black aura covering the car. The aura was very faint, and eventually the black aura disappeared underground, leaving no trace. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 305. Sure enough, there is something nearby, and it attacked Donggongwudi after he died. Thinking of this, Tongshenzi gradually sketched out a picture in his mind. Someone fired a shot at Donggongwudi while he was driving from a distance. The bullet hit his chest accurately, piercing him. The gushing blood dyed the entire car blood red. At the same time, something waiting outside enveloped Donggongwudi. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow diamond suit. It devoured his resentment and fragments of consciousness, so nothing was left at the scene. It even cut off the possibility of Donggongwudi turning into a resentful spirit. It's a perfect layout, it's a planned murder. Then the next step is to find out who it is. You probably wouldn't have thought that someone from the Ghost Immortal Dao would intervene. The Ghost Immortal Dao has long been in touch with the truth and essence of this world. Many things cannot be seen by mortals, so they will not leave traces, but they will be very clear in front of us. Thinking of this, the first thing he did was to track down the person who made the sniper. Following the traces of death to the source, he soon came to a street corner in the distance. Then he caught two faint breaths here. A sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth, and his palm was shrouded in a mysterious wave, grabbing the two breaths. The two breaths were like physical objects, and he was caught in his hand. I saw him use some mysterious seals with his left hand, and a faint power spread out from his body, quickly enveloping the two breaths. The next moment, the two breaths turned into two shining ghosts. The two little ghosts were all black, but their eyes were very smart, as if they had wisdom. They jumped on Tongshenzi's hand, then seemed to sense some gaze, and finally looked in one direction. Tongshenzi understood, turned into a puff of smoke, and flew in the direction the two little ghosts were looking at. His speed was very fast, without the limitation of a physical body, and he was almost 100 meters away in a flash. He looked like a vengeful spirit, not blocked by the material world. And the power permeating his body was not inferior to that of a master of the immortal level. In just a few minutes, he had chased out of Honglian City. But less than a few hundred meters away from Honglian City, he stopped. Have you left Honglian City? You walk so decisively, this was planned long ago. What a pity, my current realm can only leave the body 10 kilometers away at most. Thinking of this, he could only shake his head, return the same way, and soon return to the crime scene. The two little ghosts in his hand also slowly dissipated at this time. His eyes were fixed on the car, which had a faint black gas left on it. After thinking for a while, he reached out his right hand towards the black gas, but frowned slightly after he grabbed it. Isn't it the breath of the living? He shook his head slightly. The Taoist method he used to track the sniper just now was called little ghost tracking. But little ghost can only find fresh life, and it is impossible to find the existence of a simple vengeful spirit. Thinking of this, Tongshenzi couldn't help shaking his head. It seems that I have to wait for the investigation report of these people to come out, and I will take a closer look and analyze it. But there is still one thing to do now. A trace of cold light appeared in his eyes, and he turned into a puff of smoke and left here quickly. When he returned to the Prime Minister's mansion again, he directly summoned the butler of the Prime Minister's mansion. Wang Meng, the butler of the Prime Minister's mansion, also served as a secretary and could use many official relationships. Wang Meng naturally knew who Tongshenzi was. Hearing his call, he hurried to Tongshenzi's courtyard. At this time, a map appeared in Tongshenzi's hand, with many places circled on it. He handed the map to Wang Meng. This is what I found after investigating the crime scene. Go and call up all the surveillance cameras in these places. I want to check them carefully. As the chief secretary of Donggong Taiyu, Wang Meng naturally knew what happened tonight. After hearing Tongshenzi's order, he immediately said with a serious face, "Yes, sir, please wait a moment. I will collect this information as quickly as possible." Tongshenzi nodded. Go. Wang Meng disappeared in the small courtyard and used his own connections. About half an hour later, he came to Tongshenzi with a tablet. "Sir, this is the surveillance camera of those places tonight. They are all in this tablet. You can see it by opening it on the desktop." Tongshenzi took the tablet handed over by Wang Meng and quickly opened the video and began to check it one by one. Soon he found his target. The two female figures passed by the streets where these videos were shot after the time of the crime scene. The last scene in the video was that the two women left Honglian City and disappeared. Women, there was a hint of doubt in his eyes. He returned the tablet to Wang Meng. Go get someone to analyze it. Who are these two women? After collecting their information, we can issue a wanted order. It was these two people who used sniper rifles to kill Donggong Wudi. Wang Meng's face suddenly froze when he heard this. Yes, sir, I know. This night was destined to be very special. Donggong Wudi's death spread all over the internet at the first time. Thinking of the things he had done, some people immediately commented on conspiracy theories on various forums. Thinking that he was killed by his enemies in revenge. He had done things in the past very secretly, so many people didn't know who was messing with them. But now that all this has been exposed in broad daylight, naturally some people have a boundless resentment towards Donggong Wudi. Even if they attacked him, it would be very normal, not to mention that Donggong Wudi's father Donggong Taiyu is caught in the problem of public opinion. When he is busy with his own affairs, it is even more difficult to take care of Donggong Wudi's affairs. Naturally, it is a great opportunity. Many people speculate that Donggong Taiyu, the Prime Minister, will never let it go so easily and will definitely avenge his son. Now many people are speculating who is the one who attacked Donggong Wudi. But this question was soon answered for them. The official wanted order from the government listed the two sisters, Zhang Lingfang and Zhang Linghua, as the primary criminals in the murder case. When the two beautiful twins were seen, the entire network exploded. And according to insiders, the two sisters were also the personal bodyguards of Donggong Wudi, or even mistresses. This incident quickly became gossip in the social circle and began to spread widely, and countless people were looking for the truth. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 306. Soon a video reappeared on the internet. It is clear that Donggong Wudi instigated someone to cause a car accident and then planned the causes and consequences of the two sisters. Suddenly all the truth was revealed to the world, and Donggong Wudi became synonymous with everyone shouting about beating. No one cares about official arrest warrants, because no one wants to arrest good people for bad people. Everyone sympathized with the two sisters. Even with the wanted warrant from the empire, no one really reported the whereabouts or news of the two sisters. Many people even deliberately caused trouble and spread some wrong information to mislead the investigation of the Red Lotus Empire. This spontaneous behavior bought the two sisters a lot of time. Let them change their appearance and completely disappear from the sight of the huge Red Lotus Empire. The vast majority of ordinary people in the Red Lotus world have a conscience and face the corruption of the upper echelons of the empire. Their tolerance is almost zero, and they are using their own methods to resist this corruption. Toji Yatei's approval rating also dropped to a freezing point at this time. In just one day, the latest poll showed that his support rate was less than 10%. At the same time, Donggong Taiyu's political opponents also began to launch a fierce offensive against him. An all-round attack began, and the forces of the Donggong Taiyu family were severely suppressed. Many secret and dark things were exposed, and then affected the forces of the Donggong Taiyu family. The so-called tree-felled Hupensan, and the successive blows made the dependents under Donggong Taiyu choose to stay away from him. They even began to contact those political parties that extended an olive branch to them, and saw that the power of Toji Yateiyu was about to collapse. Donggong Taiyu himself also saw all this in his eyes. Although he was anxious, he had nothing to do. At this time, he was sitting in the office, looking a little depressed. The good situation of the past has gone forever, and he is in the most dangerous moment of his life. He could foresee that once he left office, many people would make trouble for him, and even launch an investigation into him. When the time comes, he may be pushed out by his family as an outcast. After all, this matter has already affected the Donggong group. As a family that has been passed down for thousands of years, they will never allow anyone to threaten their survival. Then they must cut off this factor that affects their survival. Donggong Wudi is the son of Donggong Taiyu, and now Donggong Wudi is dead. Before this matter settles down, Donggong Taiyu will become their abandoned son. In addition, Donggong Taiyu stepped down from the position of prime minister, and there was even less use value. Donggong Taiyu saw all this very clearly, so at this time, there was a sense of urgency in his heart. Thinking of this, he couldn't sit still anymore, stood up and walked towards the courtyard where Tongshenzi was. All this seems to be caused by insufficient dragon energy. As long as I solve this problem, everything will naturally develop in the direction I want. Can't wait any longer. Thinking about it, he had once again arrived at the small courtyard where Tongshenzi was. At this time, Tongshenzi was checking the investigation report on the death of Donggong Wudi in the courtyard. Crunch. There was a sound of pushing the door open, and he turned around to see the figure of Donggong Taiyu. The other party arrived suddenly, which was beyond his expectation. But when he turned around and thought about it, he already knew what was going on. Are you getting anxious? This is good news. Then you don't have to do these things anymore. He had already guessed Donggong Taiyu's intention and put down the case report in his hand. The Prime Minister came here in such a hurry, is there something important? Yes, our work has to be moved forward. Can we start today? Tongshenzi frowned, with a look of embarrassment on his face. Today? Our preparations have just been completed and some debugging and inspections are still needed. If we start today, I'm afraid there will be problems. Donggong Taiyu looked solemn, now there is not so much time to wait. My political opponents are preparing to launch parliament and want to force me out of office. You should speed up the test. We will start the final part tonight, capturing the dragon's veins and dragon energy. Hearing this, Tongshenzi looked at the resolute Donggong Taiyu and could only nod slightly. Okay, I will speed up and urge them to act quickly, and I will put this case aside for the time being. Donggong Taiyu Vinyan nodded and said, Let's put it down for now. After we finish this matter, we can continue to investigate the truth behind the scenes. Those two women are just abandoned children. Now that we are far away from Red Lotus City, it will be difficult to find them. They may have been silenced. I will continue to use the power of the Red Lotus Empire to investigate and give the people who control all this a false impression, making him think we're still hunting those two guys. When I replenish my dragon energy, I will personally start investigating this matter. I must make them pay the price. There was unconcealable murderous intent in his eyes, and it was obvious that he was truly angry. Tang Shenzhen nodded slightly. Since the Prime Minister has made a decision, I will do my best to help you realize it. This is the sincerity of my section. Donggong Taiyou nodded. Okay, then let's officially start tonight. Seeing Honglian Taiyou's back leaving the small courtyard, a proud smile appeared on Tang Shenzhen's face. Finally you took the bait. It's worth my long preparation and planning to let you step in step by step. When the time comes, the heaven and earth will work together. When the luck is gone, the hero will not be free. You lose. Thinking of this, there was an almost irrepressible joy in his heart. He had seen that the road to a higher level was opening up to him. He had been trapped at the peak of the Ghost Immortal path for many years. The reason why he came out early this time was because it was his last chance. The sect was a special place. There were limited roads to higher levels, and every position had been arranged long ago. With his identity, he would never be able to step into the higher level. The resources and classes in the sect were limited. The sect could still exist from the distant era to the present because of the strict rules of this class, which did not allow any provocation. Those who disobeyed would only die. Although he had a noble status here, he was only a middle-level person in the sect. There were still 30 or 40 people like him. This was the foundation of the sect. He could come here after countless struggles and countless costs. He only had this one chance. He took a deep breath, and a hint of joy appeared in his eyes. At number 99 Huaixia Street, a mysterious Taoist stood quietly here. He was the one who appeared in front of the tomb of Taizhu of the Dao dynasty. The house of everything I created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 307. Is this the dragon vein point chosen by the Nishan Dao sect? Qi Tianxie sect, Nishan Dao sect, we can't let you take all the good things. With a faint smile, a faint silver mist appeared around the man. The next moment, he had disappeared into the courtyard wall. It was obvious that he had entered it and didn't know what he was doing. In the Wanqi house, Lin Yi was enjoying his dinner with vodka and brandy. Only absinthe, lying on the sofa playing with his mobile phone. As a vengeful spirit, he didn't need real food. Feeling the plump, tender, and juicy steak, the fragrant aroma and gravy in his mouth, Lin Yi couldn't help but sigh and look at brandy. Your craftsmanship is getting better and better, and there are more and more customers in the store. Work hard. The commission this month is quite a lot, and you will be able to pay back the money soon. Brandy showed a hint of joy on his face. Manager, how much money do I owe you? Lin Yi thought for a while. You probably owe me more than 70 gold coins. Hearing this, Brandy's face suddenly became bitter. There are still so many. Lin Yi glanced at him. You can pay back 30 gold coins in 2 years, that's 30,000 red lotus coins, and this is after deducting your food, clothing, etc. It's not bad to be able to pay back such a large sum of money in 2 years. Look at those guys outside, how many people can save 30 gold coins in 2 years? Brandy Vignan suddenly wilted like a frostbitten eggplant. I know, but it just feels too slow. It feels like it will take at least 7 years to spend all the money. What? Want to speed up the payment? Brandy nodded and showed a hopeful look on his face. Of course, I want to get married in the future. I'm 21 years old now. Lin Yi's eyebrows jumped involuntarily when he heard this. Get married? I didn't expect you to have such a huge dream. But it's a pity. It shouldn't be possible with your current speed of saving and making money. Brandy was furious when he heard this, like a cat whose tail was stepped on. Why not? I'm very popular among the customers in the store. Maybe some young lady will fall in love with me. Then we will develop a romantic love story between the customer and the bar. As if thinking of some wonderful picture, Bai Lan showed a crazy smile on her face. Lin Yi looked at him like this, sneered and said, "Stop daydreaming, the world is very realistic now. Do you have a house? Do you have money? Can you give a gift? Do you have money for a wedding? Do you have a car? You have nothing, and you still want to get married? Dream on." Brandy listened to Lin Yi's barrage of questions, and his face froze, feeling that all his dreams were shattered. Looking at Lin Yi angrily, "Manager, you are so hateful. This is my dream. You can insult my people, but you can't insult my dreams." Lin Yi looked at Brandy and pulled the corner of his mouth. "I'm sorry, I don't want to insult your people at all. But I really want to crush your dream, but what I tell you is reality. So work hard to make money first, and don't think about getting married." Hearing Lin Yi's straightforward words, Brandy was so angry that he jumped up. But he had no choice, because he also knew that what Lin Yi said was completely realistic. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but feel a little depressed, and began to vent his anger on his plate. At this time, Lin Yi looked at him with a smile. "How is it? Are you hit? Are you interested in taking some tasks? I can let you get 30% of the reward for the task. Of course, you can also borrow the weird child, two-headed dog, strange doctor, or purple corpse monster from me. As long as you are willing to pay 10% of the rent, you should know that I can make money quickly in this business." Brandy heard the money temptation from Lin Yi, and his face suddenly changed. At this time, the absinthe on the side was ready to move, and quietly floated behind Brandy. Two cold palms gently rested on Brandy's shoulders, and the biting cold penetrated his body. "Why, do you also want to become a professional exorcist?" "Ah!" Brandy was startled with a scream, and then turned around and punched behind him. Wow! He has already entered the top level, and is no longer a completely powerless person. This sudden punch hit Absinthe's right eye, making him scream violently, and a faint blue light covered his eyes. Absinthe looked at Brandy with resentment. "You dare to hit me, I'm going to kill you." Absinthe, who seemed to be stimulated, was about to burst out of the nature of the vengeful spirit. A cold voice sounded in his mind, "Sit down." Bang! The body was almost out of control, and sat on the ground with a buttock. At this time, Absinthe suddenly woke up. Then he saw Brandy twisting his body beside him, looking at him with a weird expression. "Didn't I tell you? Don't touch me from behind, otherwise I will lose control of myself and want to punch you." Absinthe heard this, his face was gloomy, and Brandy had already entered the top level. He was no longer the person who was bullied by him in the past and had no power to fight back. With the suppression of the summoning album, he couldn't really do anything to Brandy. At this time, Lin Yi looked at Brandy and said, "You see, Absinthe is no match for you. You can try to become a hunter who removes evil spirits. Imagine the wonderful life you will have after earning a lot of gold coins. Eat meat, drink wine, and have a beautiful wife." At this time, Lin Yi's expression was indescribably vulgar, looking like a weird uncle who was deceiving a little girl. Brandy looked at his fist, and then looked at Absinthe's right eye, where a trace of green essence was attached. Although this trace of essence was rapidly dissipating under Absinthe's resentment. But all this told him a fact, that he already had the ability to hurt evil spirits. It was no longer the powerless little bar in the past. Looking at Brandy, who was completely moved, Lin Yi felt that he could add fuel to the fire. "You can also get double salary. When you don't accept any missions, you are still working at the bar and I will pay you as usual. Only when you enter a mission will I deduct the bar salary for the day. Think about it carefully. This is 2 salaries, which will allow you to pay off all your money faster." Hearing this, Brandy could no longer suppress his eager mind. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 308. He looked at Lin Yi and said, "Store manager, you can really lend them to me." "Of course you can, but you have to spend 10 gold coins at a time. But if you fail to complete the task, you will owe me money again." When Brandy heard this, his heart suddenly trembled. He knew that the money was not that easy to earn. At this time, Lin Yi changed the subject. He didn't want Brandy to back down. "So I will give you some simple tasks to do at first. Although the task is simple and the money is slightly less, it is safer. And I can lend you absinthe. He only has the top level of cultivation, but he is well informed and will be very helpful to you. Each mission only requires you to pay 1 gold coin." After hearing this, Brandy couldn't suppress the impulse in her heart. She gritted her teeth and said, "Okay, store manager, I want to try it once." Absinthe on the side was furious when he heard this. "What? I only have 1 gold coin? I'm only worth this little money? Are you insulting me too much? Ah, I want to kill you. Do I have to kill you?" Absinthe's eyes were so angry that he felt that the frequency of his anger was increasing after staying in the House of Everything. Happy things were constantly leaving him, which made him more and more intolerable. But the summoning picture album was like a lock, trapping him here tightly and unable to control himself. Lin Yi glanced at him indifferently. "I am giving you free time to go out and play, so charging a small fee is not an exaggeration." Absinthe's face froze when he heard this, thinking that he could follow Brandy's back out of the House of Everything and wander around. Another joy arose in my heart. It seems like I have more rest time. It's not impossible. Looking at the absinthe that suddenly calmed down, a smile appeared on the corner of Lin Yi's mouth. By summoning the picture album, he could naturally feel what Absinthe's mood was like. The resentment accumulated in the other party's heart grew during this period. If he is suppressed for a long time in the future, maybe Absinthe will go crazy and completely lose his mind. Then giving him some ways to vent may be a good choice. After all, a wraith that can think can do many things, and it has a considerable effect on him. Just as he was thinking, the door to the Xuanhuan house was slowly pushed open. Ring ring ring. A weathered man walked in. He was wearing a black trench coat and looked to be about 40 or 50 years old. Judging from the shabby condition of the other person's windbreaker, it was confirmed that he was not a rich person. After entering the Wanchi room, his eyes swept around and landed on Lin Yi and the others at the table. With some hesitation and a timid voice, he slowly thought, "Excuse me? Is this the all-purpose house that can solve the problem of resentful spirits?" Looking at the visitor, a smile appeared on Lin Yi's lips. When Cao arrived, he was looking for a suitable mission for Brandy, and now it seems that it has been delivered to his door. A smile appeared on his face. He stood up from his seat and walked towards the middle-aged man. "Hello, I am the store manager of Wanchaiwu. I can help you solve your problem." "Excuse me, did something happen to you?" The middle-aged man's eyes suddenly turned red when he heard this. "Yes, I have encountered a kind of trouble that cannot be solved. Please sit over here." Lin Yi led the middle-aged man to sit down at a dining table. At this time, Brandy had already cleverly brought up a glass of hot water and placed it in front of the man. The man looked at the hot water and said thank you. He picked up the hot water and took a sip. He seemed to be stabilizing his emotions, with a worried and helpless expression on his face. After a while, he seemed to calm down. Lin Yi didn't rush him, just waited quietly for him to speak. "Here's the thing, I'm a guy who lives in the slums. I have a wife and a daughter. Every day I would work on the construction site from dawn to dusk to earn some living expenses and maintain the family's finances. My wife is a female worker in a small workshop, and she doesn't earn much living expenses every day. Our family originally lived quite peacefully. But one day, a man came to the door and said that an uncle of mine had left a house for me. After being introduced, I found out that it was my long-lost uncle. He is my father's brother. When I was very young, because my family was too poor, that uncle was sold by my grandfather. My father survived by exchanging him for money. I don't know how this uncle found me, but when I heard he left us a house, I was very happy. As long as I sell that house, my family will have a lot of income, at least 200 gold coins. It's enough for me to buy a smaller house in the slums, and I can still have 50 or 60 gold coins left over to fund my daughter's studies in the future. But when I went to take over the house, it seemed like I was messing with something dirty. That night, all three of our family had nightmares. We all dreamed that our uncle was asking for our lives. It seems that uncle has been resentful of our father all his life. In the past few nights, our family of three has not been able to sleep well, and we toss and turn in nightmares every night. Uncle chases us in our dreams every night, leaving us exhausted. A friend introduced me to the Xuanhuan, saying that this place can help me solve my problems, so I came here to seek help. After saying that, he looked at Lin Yi. "Sir, can you help me solve this matter?" Lin Yi smiled slightly. "It's not a big deal. This is just a primary vengeful spirit, and it can't even harm you in reality. It can only affect you in your dreams. But if this goes on for a long time, if you can't get a quiet rest, you will eventually have a mental breakdown and die." Hearing this, the man's eyes suddenly showed horror. Then he looked at Lin Yi nervously, all begging, "Sir, please help me, our family of three are all good people, and we have never done anything to harm the world." Lin Yi showed a bright smile on his face. "Of course there is no problem, as long as there is money. This is just a small case, 10 gold coins, I will ask someone to solve it." 10 gold coins, the man was a little surprised when he heard it, and seemed shocked by the money it would cost for this matter. But thinking of the nightmares of the past few nights, he finally took out 10 gold coins from his pocket and carefully placed them on the table. "Sir, I am willing to pay the gold coins, please help me." "Okay, since you are willing to pay, then we will take this case." As he said this, his eyes were already looking at Brandy. "This case is yours. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 309. Your first task is to follow this uncle home and solve this matter. By the way, do you need Absinthe to help you? Brandy didn't expect things to happen so quickly. Looking at the smile on Lin Yi's face, he knew he couldn't refuse. Thinking of the decision just now, he took a deep breath, nodded and said, "Okay, I'll do this task, let Absinthe go with me." Lin Yi smiled slightly and nodded, looking at Absinthe and said, "Hear it, follow Brandy, and obey Brandy's orders in everything." Lin Yi took out a bag of soul-suppressing talismans, which he had left over after making them last time, and he had no chance to use them. With his current realm, this thing is no longer useful. Giving it to Brandy is just the right way to make the best use of it, and it can also be regarded as his free funding for Brandy's first case. After Brandy made some preparations, he disappeared outside the door of the Xuanhuan with a bag of talismans hanging on his waist, Absinthe on his right, and the vicissitudes of life middle-aged man on his left. At this time, Lin Yi looked at the 10 gold coins on the table, counted 7, took them and put them in his arms. The remaining 3 gold coins were placed in the bar. In the first case, Absinthe will become Brandy's free labor, which can be regarded as his support for Brandy. Sitting quietly in the lobby, swiping the famous mobile video, Lin Yi felt unprecedented peace. It's great to have a subordinate. This kind of comfortable life is what I like. At this time, vodka took over the work of brandy and absinthe, and began to work as both a bartender and a waiter in the store. His tall body was unusually conspicuous in this store, and every customer who came in would be shocked by him. However, at Lin Yi's request, vodka always had a smile on his face, and he was not allowed to make a stern or terrifying expression. Ask him to face any guest with the most sincere smile. Although vodka's face hurt from laughing, he didn't dare to disobey Lin Yi's order. It was already 8 p.m. and brandy, absinthe, and the vicissitudes man were walking quickly towards the slums in the north of Honglian City. The vicissitudes man and brandy talked a lot on the way, and the two of them became more and more speculative. They talked very happily about various ways to be stingy and save money. For example, what kind of food can be eaten in several meals? What kind of combination can ensure nutrition and reduce expenses? What kind of old things can be repaired and turned into other things? Listening to the conversation between the two, Absinthe was confused. He never thought that two men could save to this extent. A thought flashed through his mind. Is this the legendary good family man? Thinking of this, he shuddered all over, as if he saw Brandy wearing an apron at home cooking, cleaning, and taking care of children in the future. He looked like a house husband. After spending about half an hour, they arrived at the home of the vicissitudes man. This is an old building, and the home of this vicissitudes man is a family in this old building. Soon they came to the third floor and came to a room with the house number 301. The vicissitudes man closed the door of room 301. Dong dong dong. Soon a gentle female voice sounded, "Who is it?" The vicissitudes man replied, "It's me." Click. The door opened, revealing a middle-aged woman about 40 years old. There are many wrinkles on his face, but he has kind eyes and looks very gentle. The vicissitudes man said, "These two are the people I invited to solve the problem." "Please come in." The gentle middle-aged woman opened the door. The three people entered room 301 one after another. This home is a two-bedroom apartment, about 60 square meters, not big but very delicate. Everything in the house is cleaned in an orderly and tidy manner, although the furniture is very old. But it gives people a feeling of fullness of life, which shows that the family's quality of life is still very good. Several people sat in the living room, and only heard the middle-aged man say, "Gentlemen, what should we do next?" Brandy was doing the work of exorcising evil spirits for the first time. Hearing this, his eyes involuntarily looked towards Absinthe. Absinthe looked at him with disdain, but still said to the middle-aged man, "Now we can only wait. Wait for your uncle's vengeful spirit to appear in your dreams, and then we will find where its body is. After exorcising him, your troubles will be solved and get rid of this invisible threat. Don't worry about inheriting the legacy that belongs to your uncle." The middle-aged man nodded slightly after hearing this. "Everything is up to you too." He looked at Brandy. "Mr. Brandy, what do you want to drink? We still have some tea at home." Brandy thought for a while and said, "No, just give me a glass of water." The atmosphere was a little quiet, and Brandy suddenly noticed a problem. He looked at the vicissitudes of life and said, "By the way, where is your daughter?" The vicissitudes of life said in classical Chinese, "She is studying in that room. Because of the nightmare these days, she has not slept well. She is in a rebellious period, so her emotions are very unstable. We dare not disturb her casually." Brandy shook his head. "It's really pitiful for parents in the world." Absinthe on the side looked like a 14-year-old child. He looked around bored. After getting tired of watching, he started playing with his mobile phone, as if everything had nothing to do with him. Only Brandy would keep talking to the vicissitudes man. As for the hostess of this house, she was busy in the kitchen all the time. Except for bringing them clean water and showing up when opening the door, she never came out again. A typical family where the man is the breadwinner and the woman is the homemaker. Everything was progressing quietly, and Brandy and the others were waiting for the arrival of night. Soon it was 9:30 in the evening, and Absinthe looked at the vicissitudes man and said, "It's almost time, you can go to bed first. Brandy and I will wait outside, and if there is any problem, we will solve it as soon as possible." The vicissitudes man looked a little nervous. "Okay, everything is up to you." At this time, the vicissitudes man went to the kitchen to bring his wife out, and then the two entered their own room. The door was gently closed, but it could be opened from the outside at any time. Brandy looked at Absinthe. "What should I do later? I have never really gotten rid of a ghost." Absinthe looked at him. "You are just too cowardly. Don't worry, this ghost can only appear in other people's dreams and affect their lives. Just like the store manager said, it is just a ghost that is not yet powerful enough." The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 310. Although your Aoki Kung Fu is mainly good at the continuity of energy, it is no problem to deal with these ghosts. Besides, I am here, what are you afraid of? A few ghosts that are not powerful enough can be easily eliminated. Brandy nodded and became a little more confident. But when his eyes swept over Absinthe, he shuddered all over, and a thought flashed through his mind. "I am just more afraid of you. You are too scary when you turn into a non-human." Thinking of the way Absinthe turned into a ghost, he couldn't help but feel a kind of physical fear. Time passed by minute, and it was 10:30 in a blink of an eye. Muffled and even breathing sounds came from both bedrooms. There were two slightly heavy breathing sounds in one bedroom, and slightly light breathing sounds in the other bedroom. This was caused by the different breathing sounds of young people and middle-aged people. As the breathing sounds sounded, changes suddenly began to appear in the room. A faint chill spread from nowhere and quickly enveloped the room. Absinthe was the first to notice this change. He stood up from the sofa and looked around with cold eyes. At this time, Brandy also looked at him, and obviously noticed something. About half an hour later, the chill became stronger and stronger, and Brandy felt that his breath turned white. The temperature in the room was dropping rapidly. At this time, a slight cry of pain came from the two rooms. Absinthe frowned and said, "It started. They are having a nightmare. They are talking in their sleep. Go and stick the soul-suppressing talisman on their foreheads." The power of the soul-suppressing talisman is enough to block the influence of the resentful spirit on their dreams. Brand nodded and quickly opened a door. He saw the couple with painful faces lying on the bed, seemingly trapped in the abyss of nightmares. He took out two soul-suppressing talismans, quickly injected essence, and stuck them on their foreheads respectively. A faint golden thread quickly flowed out from the soul-suppressing talisman and permeated their bodies. A trace of black air floated out of their bodies under the spread of the golden thread, and then dissipated. Then Brandy went to the second door. After pushing it open, he saw a girl in pajamas on the bed, about 14 or 15 years old. She looked ordinary, not pretty, but not ugly either. At this time, her face was a little hideous, and fear filled her face. Brandy walked over quickly and stuck a soul-suppressing talisman on her forehead. Then, under the brilliance of the golden thread, a faint resentment appeared in her body. Accompanied by a faint scream, the resentment dissipated without a trace. At this time, a slight wind sounded in the living room outside. Brandy was alert and quickly returned to the living room. Then he saw an amazing scene, shivered all over, and a fear rose in his heart. There was a phantom wearing a shroud, slowly floating in the center of the living room. His eyes were full of hatred and greed for the living, and his gaze fell directly on Brandy. Suddenly being stared at by a vengeful spirit, Brandy could not hide the fear on his face. At this time, the vengeful spirit did not wait for anything else, and raised his hands high, with sharp black nails on his 10 pale fingers. He pounced on Brandy in mid-air, and a chill hit him in the face. Brandy instinctively rolled on the ground to avoid the attack of the vengeful spirit. At this time, he had already run to Absinthe. "Absinthe, help me, this thing is too scary." Absinthe rolled his eyes at him and said, "Don't expect me to help you solve it. Do it yourself, this ghost is very weak, there is nothing wrong with what you said. This is what the store manager told me when I left. Unless it is a life and death situation, I am not allowed to help you solve the ghost. My existence is just an insurance to ensure that you will not die at the hands of the ghost. Besides that, I will not ask about anything else." Hearing this, Brandy was immediately furious. "What? You can't help me solve it?" Absinthe looked at him with a gloating look on his face. "Let you listen to the store manager's nonsense, this time you can handle it yourself, bye." After the voice fell, Absinthe sank to the ground and disappeared here in a flash. Leaving Brandy alone in a daze, looking at the ghost in the shroud, staring at him closely. Just now, because Brandy was standing behind Absinthe, the ghost did not attack rashly. Because he could also feel the power of Absinthe, bullying the weak and fearing the strong, even in the world of ghosts. At this time, Absinthe disappeared, and Brandy had no protection anymore, so he could only face the ghost head-on. The ghost exuded boundless chill and rushed towards Brandy again. At this time, Brandy dodged quickly, as if he had forgotten that he was a top-level martial arts master. The ghost missed again, but it could fly and was very fast. He kept rising and falling, aiming at Brandy and attacking. Brandy kept dodging in the living room like a rolling gourd. His face was a little pale, which was caused by fear. Every time he faced the ghost, he would be unconsciously afraid. It seemed that the fear of the ghost was engraved in his bones. But what is more surprising is that he can accurately dodge the attacks from the vengeful spirit every time. It is as if he can predict all the attacks of the vengeful spirit in advance. Absinthe is hiding aside at this time, looking at the exhausted Brandy, with a gloating light in his eyes. "I asked you to jump, I asked you to order, I asked you to hit me, let's see what you can do now." Absinthe has no intention of helping Brandy at all, he strictly abides by Lin Yi's orders. As long as it is not a life and death crisis, he will never intervene. Brandy gradually adapted to this kind of attack during this continuous hiding process, and his panting was slightly heavy. This is the result of a large loss of physical strength during the tense process. If you are exercising vigorously, this loss will be faster. The vengeful spirit does not know this, he just follows his instinct and keeps attacking Brandy. He wants to tear Brandy into pieces and enjoy the taste of flesh and blood. This is the instinct of his vengeful spirit. After more than a dozen times, Brandy, who had adapted to the attacks of the evil spirit, was able to think slightly in his mind. He suddenly realized that the attacks of the evil spirit did not seem so difficult to dodge, and the power was not so strong. Thinking of this, he felt a little courageous. Absinthe had no idea where to hide. He had no help at all and was helpless. He could only rely on himself, and suddenly he seemed to think of the past.